Okay, so in my last video, I'd connected a Bluetooth Widi Jack to give me MIDI access to the core, and I'd run a cable from there over to the looper. And I'd managed to get that to work. And what I did is when I tested it, I was sort of testing and sort of turning the banks over here, and I was updating everything on this level over on the core over here. However, I wanted to bring in OnSong. And the idea is with OnSong is I've got all my lyrics, chords, whatever else, use it as a visual guide on my iPad. And as I wanted to sort of change everything on the iPad, I wanted everything to change on the core and the looper. Now, I use the looper in a couple of different ways. Obviously, there's my own looping stuff that I'm playing around with, and also I'm using it as backing tracks. Now, that's something the core doesn't let me do with only a 19-second limit or something on the looper. So being able to control volume, being able to control the output, have a microphone input, but also for backing tracks. And part of the reason being is, although you can get backing tracks in OnSong, and I've attached them, so for example, if I press the play button here, you know, I can get a backing track playing. There's no way of getting the audio out of the iPad into an amp. And that was the idea about setting up the loop station, to be able to do that. So I've got the backing tracks. So consequently, it's how do I sit there and flick between all of this, okay, to be able to go around and to be able to get everything here to change at the same time. So turning patch control off on the looper and setting them each to an individual channel, so for example, channel 5 here, channel 10 over here, and then being able to set in the parameters in here, say 2 MIDI events, okay, to say go to channel, you know, so obviously if you go into the actual level, program 10, and then I've the number, and the number I've named, what I've done is I've actually set up a load of patches, the same number on here, the same number on here, and the same number on here. And so now watch what happens. If I move from one to another, you can see here, everything is changing. Okay, now forget all some of the names, because some of them haven't actually been programmed. I haven't even worked out the music and stuff for these yet. So the idea was just getting them to do work. But you can see, you know, Hotel California, move it back here. So you can see how they're all changing. Equally, if I change a foot switch, it's the same thing. There you go. So there we go. I have it. You know, sort of the cult there on all three. So each way round now works. And that's basically using a simple situation. Now, in order to do that, having a single Widi Jack didn't work. Okay? So I had to put another Widi Jack onto the looper. So I now have 2 Widi Jacks. Now, when you put the 2 Widi Jacks and you turn the power on, they want to connect together and they create their own little network. And once they create their own network, the iPad can't hear them. So I have to sort of turn those in order, and you use an app. I've used the MidiMittr app, MidiMittr app or whatever. But you can also use AudioBus here. And in AudioBus, you can see there, I've got the 2 devices connected, okay? So that's now from my OnSong to the Widi core to the Widi looper. You can add any number of pedals into this situation. And that is how OnSong, if you go into the settings and you look at the MIDI sources here, there you go. So you can see how MIDI is now talking to 2 other Bluetooth connections. And basically what you're doing is you're using the iPad there as the conduit between all 3 devices. But it also works if I turn the iPad off and don't use the iPad, these things still work in sync. Now, having the patch the same name is great for when I want backing tracks, so that works fine. But I don't always want to use backing tracks. So for example, if I wanted to sort of go to say something like this one, say I'm just trying to play around with a blues riff or something and I'm playing around. This is just a test page at the moment. But you can see there, that's now gone to strap. And that has now gone to a blues. where I'm sort of playing around with different effects. So again, that's the same thing. It just means that here I have different program changes. So basically I'm telling the patch change on the core to go to one patch and a different patch on the loop station. So that's fine. So then we've got another situation where they don't always have to be numerically synced. They work for me for the patches and the backing tracks, and I've got them set a high number like 50. So I've still got 50 sort of core things to play around with here. It just means I've overgot them in. And the great thing about OnSong is I've got them set up, for example, at the moment just a MIDI list, but I can put any songs in any set list, and then it doesn't matter what order they're in, because as soon as I simply go and play, for example, you know, one of these nights or whatever, boom, you know, all of that's done. It just changes automatically. So it doesn't matter what order they're in. You can set that up in your set list separately. But I wanted to go to another level, even beyond this. So Alec Bourne and Bjarni, you know, the sort of the mad MIDI scientists and the crazy magic Viking have been helping me out with some kind of ideas of visual. And so the idea is I've set up a couple here. For example, my guitars. Now the idea is this, is that when you click on a guitar, it should change the input setting, okay, on here. So obviously if we go into it, click the input, you can see here I've got 3 guitars set up. Oops, no, let me change this one. Strat, Taylor, Les Paul, okay, for the different acoustic settings for the various pickups. Now I want to be able to sit there and control them with just these clicking the icons. And the way we do this in OnSong, you create a sticky note, and the sticky note you can actually put in, if you click this target here, all sorts of clever stuff. But one of the ones you can do on the events here, send, and you could send a MIDI event. Now you can listen. So what I've been trying to do is to get this to actually output various MIDI sysx messages, to try and listen over here and then set them up to actually play back. And this is where I'm having a problem. In theory, it works. So for example, if I can get rid of this one here, if I look at this, oops, it's difficult to click sometimes. There we go. What I've done is this note is set to transparent, okay? And you can set them up, and I've moved the text down accordingly by a couple of line breaks, and you can fix the size and you can press lock. And so what you end up doing, so if I, for example, click this again, there you can see the actual note itself is actually now a colored note. So all I've done is I've set the others up to transparent, and each one of those has got a send message accordingly. Now the idea is when I click on one of those, it should change the input setting here, either at system level or at patch level. Can I get that to work? Going through the manual, I've reached out to Boss, I've reached out to Johan, I've reached out to a couple of other people trying to figure out what we're doing and how to get this to work. I can't seem to get it to work. Whether it's at a system level that can't be controlled, I don't know. I've still got to figure that out. However, I have started to play around with the pedal board as well. And the idea is here to get all the main pedals over there to give me a visual. Now, eventually I'll actually have a separate pedal board. Okay, so I'm going to have currently I've got a DA Electronics pedal on the way, MIDI looper with Bluetooth, so I'll be able to push buttons, and I want the actual colors of the LEDs here to sit there and work accordingly with the pedals. Again, we're going to try all this different stuff out. But at the moment, I've done an invisible, just for the compressor, for example. So if I come out of this, what I've done, let's try and find something with a capo or something here. Right. You can create hotspots in OnSong. And so the idea is I can click on this hotspot over here and I can now change, oops, forgive me, the chords. Okay, so you can see there, capo off, capo on, the chords change. Great, okay, so you've got both options to be able to sit and do that. However, what I've also done is I've programmed this hotspot here. You can see on the core, it changes between manual mode, and if I double click this, it goes into patch mode. So the idea is I'm now able to control and set these up accordingly and to be able to jump straight between manual and, you know, the sort of typical patch mode by just pressing this button over here, okay? Is it 1 or 2? So we'll click 1 for one, click 2 for the other. Okay, there you go. So that's that first part done. And you can see here as I'm flicking through, you'll see all the patches change. Now we go to this pedal over here. This is now working with a different pedal patch. And if I sort of again click, you can see there my compressor is switched on. Now, if I go to the compressor pedal over here, again, I've used another transparent sticky label. And if I click this over here, oh, it's not working. I thought this was working. Here we go. With me here. I need to check the code here. The idea is you put the code again in this MIDI send. Control 26 at the moment on channel 10. Okay, that should be what's set up here. Ah, yes, it is working. Right, okay, sorry, I don't know what happened there. I think sometimes the speed of connection between the two, I think with the Boss, the SysX, it can just take a little time, I've noticed. But look what's happening here. Press the compressor pedal. Compressors off. Compressors on. Brilliant. The idea is you could have a whole bunch of all the pedals set up, and in a visual way, I could sit and turn the delay off, I could turn the relay off. It means you've got to set up the CC numbers at patch level, as far as I'm aware, within the core. And then if I give each one of these a name, so for example, compressors 26, distortion could be 27, overdrive 28. If I set up at patch level the assigns at 26, 27, and 28 across all patches, I only need to put them on if I'm using that effect in that patch, but have the same number sequence. I could create one master template here, and no matter what patch I'm on, I should be able to turn things on and off in a visual way. Now, in a visual way means OnSong doesn't give me a button up or down, so I can't see whether it's on or off. I've got no visual feedback in that sense. I want to be able to sit there and have the compressor on or off here. Now, we'll watch what's happened. If I press compressor on, compressor off, I have the LED lights, okay? When I do it over here, no LED. Now, there might be a way at SysX level or another level to be able to send the LED signal out as well. I haven't figured that out, but that's the next stage. So the thing is, can we set these all up? Okay, I think I figured out, yes, these potentially can all be figured up across the board. Can I set the LED lights to come over here? And the plan is, when I actually get a separate pedal board, a MIDI interface stomp switch, I want the LED colors to be able to work on this separate switch over here, the foot switch. So then I've got foot switch with colors for extending beyond the compressor, you know, or the 3 buttons here. Currently, when I'm into manual mode, I can't seem to set up the actual 2 control points over here. This control one stays the same. You can see here as we go through here, oops, between manual mode and normal mode, control one always stays the same. Why? You tell me, why can't we have 6 buttons here? Why has this one always got to be the same across all 3? I don't know. But the idea, that's how I would have assumed it would have been. So jumping out at the moment, but potentially I should be able to have 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5 assignable, which you can assign on this level, but I don't seem to be able to connect to the manual level via MIDI. So that again is only limiting me to 3 buttons at the moment, which is, I've got to figure out if we can get all 5 of these linked up. That's just to be able to turn the effects on and off, let alone going into all the dials here, the various settings, which potentially I should be able to do by pressing, for example, smaller buttons up there if I want to be able to get into a deeper setting there in a visual way. That's a possibility as well. So again, well advanced from where we are at the moment. And then the next stage is, can we bring other pedals into the MIDI control and sit there and have the same kind of idea? So yes, I think we should be able to extend the rig, put in more MIDI jacks, have all the other pedals and have everything working together. I know some of the other guys have already done that already, and we're trying to set that up using a visual reference. So this is just where I'm trying to do this, because there's no information about how Boss works at this level. Most people are using Helix, most people are using Helix and Strymons, and so all the different manufacturers, it's just going to be trying to get it set up accordingly. So if I can crack this on the Boss, then that's going to be fantastic. So just to cap, yes, at the moment we've got, for example, like I said, we've got all the patches up there. I've got it literally foot switched enabled. Should be able to have that as a MIDI foot switch as well. Those things I'm pretty confident with. Just some of the other stuff I would love to see happening is on these kind of master visual backgrounds, to be able to somehow create a sort of visual interface to the core. So that's where I'm at. So I hope you like that. And anybody else who's got MIDI experience or Boss GT experience, please get in touch, because I'd love to figure some of this out with you so we can help other guys as well. Thank you.